4 fruit crops that produce in months. Most farmers waste 3 years on the wrong ones or wrong propagation. As promised on my last video, I will be discussing the remaining 4 fruit crops in this video. In case you missed the last video, please check the link attached to this video description. Thank you. Number 4, peach, grafted/dwarf. Timeline 2 to 3 years. Peach trees can be surprisingly fast with the right variety and the right location. 2 to 3 years to first fruit from a grafted tree isn't uncommon. Dwarf varieties like Bonanza or Pick Z have been documented fruiting as early as year 2 in home garden conditions. For a stone fruit, that's exceptional. Peaches also produce abundantly once they begin. A healthy tree in its 3rd or 4th year can yield 15 to 25 kilograms of fruit. The fruit develops quickly once it sets. Most varieties go from flower to harvest in 3 to 5 months, which means a single season can deliver a meaningful harvest with minimal wait after the tree matures. How to plant it correctly. Source a grafted tree from a nursery that can confirm the rootstock and chilling hour requirement for your specific climate. This is not optional information. Planting a high chill variety in a warm climate is the single most common and most expensive mistake made with peaches. For temperate climates, plant in autumn or late winter while the tree is dormant. For warmer climates, plant at the start of the cool season, and confirm your variety requires 200 chilling hours or fewer. Select full sun, 8 hours minimum. Peaches in shade produce minimal fruit and develop fungal diseases rapidly, particularly peach leaf curl. Soil must drain freely. Peaches are highly sensitive to root rot in waterlogged conditions. Sandy loam with a pH between 6.0 and 6.5 is ideal. If your soil is heavy clay, build a raised mound or select a naturally elevated planting site. Dig your hole twice the width and the same depth as the root ball. Spread the roots outward as you backfill. Never allow them to circle in the hole. The graft union must sit above the soil surface. Backfill with native soil and compost. Apply a 10 centimeter mulch layer around the base, keeping it 20 centimeters clear of the trunk. In the first year, water weekly in the absence of rain, deeply, allowing water to reach 40 to 50 centimeters below the surface. In the second year, reduce to every 10 to 14 days except during fruit development, when consistent moisture is critical. Fertilize with a balanced NPK in early spring. Avoid high nitrogen formulas after the first year. Excessive nitrogen pushes vegetative growth at the expense of fruiting. Prune into an open vase shape from year 1. This means removing the central leader and training 3 to 4 main branches outward at 45-degree angles. The open center allows light and airflow to reach all parts of the tree. Peaches that are shaded in their own canopy produce less fruit and carry more disease. Prune every year in late winter before bud break. Without annual pruning, peach production drops sharply, but there's a hidden requirement most people miss: chilling hours. Peach trees need a specific number of hours below 7 degrees Celsius during winter to break their dormancy and flower properly in spring. In warm or tropical regions, the tree grows, leaves out, looks completely healthy but never flowers, and a tree that doesn't flower never fruits. Growth isn't the goal, fruit is. Know your climate before you plant. Number 3, banana. Timeline 9 to 12 months. If papaya changed your expectations, a banana resets them. 9 to 12 months from planting a healthy sucker to a full bunch of fruit. In optimal conditions, some fast maturing varieties like Dwarf Cavendish and Grand Nain have been harvested closer to 8 months. And the production model is unlike any other crop on this list. A banana plant produces one bunch, then the main stem dies, but before it does, it has already sent up between 3 and 10 new suckers from the same root system. Each of those suckers becomes the next plant, and the next. The original planting doesn't end, it multiplies. Then this is called a ratoon system, and it's what separates a banana from every other fruit crop in terms of continuous production. You plant once, the system sustains itself. A single mat to one original plant and its successive generations can stay productive for decades with proper management. Commercial banana operations have maintained the same mats for 25 years or more. The bunch weight adds up quickly. A single bunch from a Cavendish plant typically weighs 30 to 50 kilograms. Multiple mats in a small plot can generate several hundred kilograms per cycle. How to plant it correctly? Banana is planted using suckers, the shoots that emerge from the base of an existing plant. Not all suckers are equal. Sword suckers, which have narrow blade-like leaves at emergence, are strongly preferred over water suckers, which have broad leaves. Sword suckers produce larger, faster developing plants. Water suckers produce weaker growth in smaller bunches. The sucker should be 45 to 90 centimeters tall at the time of separation. Smaller suckers take longer to establish. Larger ones suffer more transplant stress. Use a sharp spade to cut the sucker from the mother plant, retaining as much of the corm, the underground base, as possible. Trim the sucker's leaves back to reduce moisture loss during establishment. Select a planting site with full sun. Banana will grow in partial shade but produces significantly smaller bunches and takes longer to reach harvest. Soil must drain well. Banana has one of the highest water demands of any crop but will not tolerate waterlogging. A slight slope or raised mound is preferable to a flat moisture-retaining site. A sandy loam with high organic matter is ideal. Dig a planting hole 60 centimeters wide and 60 centimeters deep. Fill the base with 20 centimeters of well-rotted compost or manure. Place the corm in the hole so the top sits at or just below the soil surface. Backfill firmly and water deeply at planting. Space individual plants 2.5 to 3 meters apart in rows, with 4 meters between rows if planting multiple rows. This spacing allows the mat to expand naturally without overcrowding as suckers develop. Mulch heavily. 15 to 20 centimeters of organic mulch around the base regulates soil temperature, retains moisture, and reduces weed competition. As it breaks down, it also feeds the soil continuously. Irrigate consistently. During active growth, banana requires the equivalent of 25 to 30 millimeters of rainfall or irrigation per week. In hot and dry conditions, this increases. During cooler months, reduce but do not eliminate watering. Fertilize monthly with a high potassium formula from the 3rd month onward. Potassium is the primary driver of bunch development and fruit fill in banana. Nitrogen supports vegetative growth in the early months. Shift the ratio toward potassium once the plant is 1.5 meters tall. Apply fertilizer in a ring around the base, not directly against the stem. Allow only one follower sucker to develop at a time. The strongest sword sucker at each stage. Remove all other suckers as they emerge. This concentrates the root system's energy into one successor plant and produces a significantly better next bunch. Letting multiple suckers develop simultaneously weakens every one of them. Water and feeding aren't optional with banana. Miss either, and then the next shoot cycle weakens. You don't lose one harvest, you reset the whole system. Number 2, fig timeline 1 to 2 years. Figs are one of the fastest and most forgiving fruit crops you can grow, and consistently one of the most underrated. Many varieties produce in 1 to 2 years from cuttings. Some, including Brown Turkey and Chicago Hardy, have been documented fruiting in their first growing season when planted as established cuttings in warm conditions. The tolerance profile is exceptional. Figs grow in poor soils where most fruit crops fail. They handle extended drought once established. Their deep root systems can access moisture that shallow-rooted crops cannot reach. They don't require complex fertilizer programs. They don't need pollinating insects for most varieties. And unlike many fast-producing crops, they continue producing for decades. And some fig trees have remained productive for over 100 years. The flavor and sugar content of homegrown figs also significantly outperform commercially sold fruit, which is typically harvested underripe to survive transport. A fig picked at full ripeness from your own tree is a completely different product. The yield builds with age. A mature fig tree in its 3rd or 4th year can produce 20 to 30 kilograms of fruit per season. Some established trees produce considerably more. How to plant it correctly? Cuttings are the fastest and most reliable propagation method for fig, far superior to seed, which produces inconsistent plants and adds months to the timeline. Take hardwood cuttings in late winter or early spring while the plant is dormant. Select pencil-thick stems from last season's growth, approximately 20 to 30 centimeters long with 3 to 4 nodes. Cut cleanly below the lowest node, dip the base in rooting hormone, and plant upright in a mix of coarse sand and perlite. Keep cuttings in a warm location with indirect light until roots develop, typically 4 to 6 weeks. Transplant to the final position once new leaf growth confirms rooting. Plant in full sun at 6 to 8 hours minimum. Fig planted in shade produces less fruit and is more susceptible to fungal issues from reduced airflow. Figs are one of the few fruit crops genuinely tolerant of poor soil, but they perform best in loamy, well-draining conditions with a pH between 6.0 and 6.5. They will not tolerate waterlogging. If your site drains slowly, build a mound or plant on a slope. Then dig a hole twice the width of the root ball. Figs develop extensive lateral root systems that the wide hole encourages outward spread from the start. Backfill with native soil and a modest amount of compost. Do not over-fertilize fig at planting. Too much nitrogen causes excessive vegetative growth and suppresses fruiting, particularly in the first 2 years. Water deeply at planting, then allow the top 5 to 8 centimeters of soil to dry between waterings. Fig is drought tolerant once established, but during the first summer it needs regular water to develop its root system. After year 1, reduce irrigation significantly. The root system will seek out moisture independently, space trees at least 4 to 5 meters apart, figs spread wide at maturity, and perform best with good air circulation through the canopy. Fertilize lightly, once in early spring with a balanced fertilizer. In poor soils, add a second application in midsummer. More than this encourages leaf growth at the expense of fruit. Many experienced fig growers apply no fertilizer at all to establish trees and achieve excellent results. Prune in late winter while dormant. Remove crossing or inward growing branches to open the canopy. A light annual prune is all that's required. Aggressive pruning stimulates vegetative regrowth and delays fruiting, but one mistake undoes all of it. Overwatering, and most growers don't connect it to the problem until they've already done it twice. Here's the mechanism. Excessive soil moisture during fruit development dilutes the sugar concentration inside the fruit. The figs develop normally in size, ripen on schedule, but the flavor is thin, watery, and disappointing. Growers assume it's a variety problem. They replace the tree. The new tree has the same issue because the watering habit didn't change. Reduce irrigation as fruit begins to swell in color. Let the soil dry between waterings. The tree will stress slightly, and that stress concentrates the sugars that make figs worth growing. Fast production means nothing if the fruit isn't worth harvesting. Number 1. Pineapple timeline, 12 to 18 months. One plant doesn't just produce fruit, it funds the next one and the one after that. 12 to 18 months from planting to harvest. Without any special techniques, without a large plot, and without expensive inputs, pineapple is not a tree. It's a bromeliad, a ground-level plant that grows a single fruit from its center once the plant matures. But what makes it exceptional isn't just the speed, it's the propagation system built into the fruit itself. Here's the part most growers miss. Cut the top off your harvested pineapple. The crown, the leafy portion that sits above the fruit. Let it dry for 2 days to seal the cut surface and prevent rot. Plant it in well-draining soil. It will root within 2 to 3 weeks and begin its growth cycle. That's it. The crown that most people throw away is the next plant. The plant that produced it can also generate ratoons, offshoots from the base, that become additional plants. A single original pineapple plant can produce 2 to 5 ratoons over its productive life, each one capable of fruiting in its own right. Diaries. This means the cost of your first planting is the only real cost. Every fruit after that is free. There's more. Pineapple is one of the few crops that responds to ethylene induction, a technique used commercially and replicable at home. Placing a ripe apple or a small amount of calcium carbide near the plant releases ethylene gas, which triggers flowering 45 to 60 days earlier than the natural cycle. This compresses the timeline without affecting fruit quality. In terms of variety, MD2, the golden variety dominant in global supermarkets, was bred for sweetness, low acidity, and shelf life. Smooth cayenne is older, more acidic, intolerant of varied conditions. Sugarloaf varieties, common in West Africa, are exceptionally sweet with white flesh and almost no acidity. Outstanding for fresh consumption. Know which variety suits your conditions before planting, how to plant it correctly. Pineapple can be established from crown, slips, ratoons, or suckers. All are vegetative propagation methods that maintain variety characteristics. Crowns from purchased fruit are the most accessible starting point. Prepare the crown by removing the bottom 2 to 3 centimeters of fruit flesh from the cut end. Any remaining fruit tissue will rot and can infect the developing roots. Peel back the lower 3 to 4 rows of small leaves from the base to expose the stem nodes, which is where roots will emerge. Allow the crown to dry in a shaded, ventilated location for 2 to 7 days before planting. This drying period is critical. It seals the cut surface and dramatically reduces the risk of base rot in the soil. Select a planting site in full sun. Pineapple is a tropical plant that requires high light intensity to develop well. It will grow in partial shade but takes considerably longer to fruit and produces smaller, less sweet fruit. Soil drainage is essential. Pineapple has a shallow, fibrous root system that is highly sensitive to waterlogging. Well-draining sandy loam with a slightly acidic pH between 4.5 and 6.0 is ideal. If your soil is heavy or compacted, raise your beds by 20 to 30 centimeters and incorporate coarse sand and compost to improve drainage and aeration. Pineapple will not survive in saturated soil. Plant the prepared crown or slip into the soil to a depth of 3 to 5 centimeters, just deep enough to anchor it. Deeper planting restricts air circulation around the base and encourages rot. The surrounding leaves should remain well above the soil surface. Space plants 30 to 50 centimeters apart within rows, with 90 centimeters between rows. This spacing allows adequate airflow and light penetration while making efficient use of growing space. At this density, A 10 square meter plot can accommodate 30 to 40 plants. Water lightly after planting. Pineapple is drought tolerant, and overwatering in the establishment phase is a common mistake. Once rooted, typically within 3 to 4 weeks, the plant begins active growth. Water every 5 to 7 days in dry conditions, less frequently in humid or rainy climates. Pineapple can absorb moisture through its leaves as well as its roots. Occasional light misting or light rainfall benefits the plant even when soil is dry. Fertilize monthly with a balanced fertilizer from month 2 onward. Pineapple benefits particularly from magnesium and iron, which support leaf development and photosynthetic efficiency. Foliar feeding, spraying diluted liquid fertilizer directly onto the leaves, is particularly effective for pineapple due to its leaf-absorbing capability. Apply foliar feeds in the early morning or evening to prevent leaf burn. Mulch between plants with organic material to retain moisture, suppress weeds, and regulate soil temperature. As the planting matures, the dense leaf canopy shades the soil naturally and reduces weed pressure significantly. Once the main fruit has been harvested, allow the ratoons to develop. Select the strongest 1 to 2 ratoons per plant and remove the rest. This concentrates root energy into fewer, stronger plants and produces better next cycle fruit. And the retained ratoons will fruit in 12 to 16 months from the original harvest, often faster than the original crown planting. Most crops take resources to expand. Pineapple pays for its own expansion. Plant one, it gives you the next one. That one gives you the next. The system builds itself. Closing. Here's what most growers don't realize until years later. It's not about planting the fastest crop. It's about planting the right combination, so something is always producing. Think about the timeline. Papaya produces in year 1, sometimes before the first year is even out. Your land isn't sitting idle, it's already working. Banana overlaps in that same window. 9 to 12 months, continuous ratoon cycles, no replanting required. While your papaya rotation is staggering its second cycle, your banana mats are already on their second bunch. A pineapple follows. 12 to 18 months in, your pineapple plants are fruiting and simultaneously producing the crowns and ratoons that become your next cycle. No additional planting costs. Fig fills the gaps when the others slow down. Drought hits. Wet season disrupts your papaya cycle. Your banana needs a rest period. The fig doesn't care. It's still there, still producing, tolerating conditions that would compromise everything else. Stack them correctly with timing in mind. Shoot back, and you don't wait at all. You move from seasonal harvest then to continuous production. That's the difference between planting crops and building a system. One approach gives you fruit when conditions allow. The other gives you fruit every month of the year, because something is always in cycle. Most growers spend years learning this by accident. You just learned it now. Please like and subscribe for more videos like this one.